This is gonna sound kind of strange, but there's something I need you to remember. Are you ready? It goes like this. Remember, Genisys is
If you're able to remember back a few decades to what was the beginning of the year 2020, you might remember my video on Terminator Dark Fate, where I was being quite harsh on that movie. You know, for good reason. But having gone back to revisit some of the older films of this franchise, I now realize that aside from the dump that Dark Fate took on T2's legacy as its own thing, it's not actually a bad Terminator movie, or even close to it. Because the term bad Terminator movie is defined by an entry that is like a cinematic dump just in of itself. The entry that is 2015's Terminator Genisys.
Ugly motherfucker.
Essentially, Terminator Genisys was supposed to be a return to form for the franchise, as is always the case, right? But to be fair, the new people that were now in control of the IP did seem to be onto something. They found a great young Sarah Connor, they even got Arnold back, and they were building this totally different alternate reality that would finally give us something new and worthy. But still, despite all those good intentions, you know. If you wanted a full detailed explanation about all the not so great things about this movie, you'd need a video at least as long as the movie itself, which I'm sure already exists, and so there's no point in me wasting any more time on that. But the one thing I did find interesting about Genisys is that it might very well be the most boring blockbuster I've ever seen. You know, despite all the loud excitement that comes with being a big summer action blockbuster, I'd say this film manages to put you to sleep more effectively than the smallest experimental documentary about grass growing. And I thought that's something useful for us to find more about. And yeah, we've touched on boredom before, but in here there's a couple of very fundamental lessons to learn about cinematic boredom on a grand scale. Lessons about beginning your movie, lessons about beginning your movie, and lessons about repeating the same things over and over again. So, that said, let's take a look at Terminator Genisys to see what it did to become a contender for the dullest, most stale Hollywood blockbuster of all time, and how you can avoid contending against it in that. Here's how to make a movie so boring that it makes even Dark Fate seem like a gift. The first boredom thing you'll notice about Genisys is that it doesn't seem to actually even begin until like 20 minutes in. See, the way this movie quote-unquote begins is with this massive verbal and visual-driven prologue section that fills in the backstory for this world. You know, we find out how we got to the future we're at and how our hero Kyle Reese first created a bond with John Connor.
Skynet woke up, decided all humanity was a threat to its existence, and then one man found me. His name is John Connor.
We find out that John is this great military leader and that they successfully defeat Skynet.
They use words like prophet, but John is more. Colorado units succeeded, and the machines fell.
We find out that Skynet sent a T-800 Terminator into the past to kill John's mom, Sarah, and that we need to, like, go put a stop to that.
The machine succeeds, I'll never be born. And by doing so, erase every victory we've fought for, including...
Take care of it for me, Kyle.
That will.
There's even more stuff like this, but I don't want this video itself to get too boring. You get the point though, it's all just backstory, for a couple reasons. Firstly, you'll notice that what we see isn't real individual scenes and sequences, but more like these tiny fleeting moments existing only to convey information. We don't ever really get to know Kyle or John or the relationship they have, we just find out that they and their relationship exist.
You're my right hand, Reese. I've never thanked you for it.
You don't need to.
We don't get any actual conflict or tension or stakes in a Skynet base assault. All we do get is this collection of quick shots accompanied by John's heroic speech that tells us that they beat the machines.
Skynet's central core is down. Repeat, Skynet has been destroyed.
Everything in here, it exists only to convey information. The second side to why all this is just backstory is because none of it is what the actual movie is about. The movie isn't about Kyle or John's origin story. It's not about taking down Skynet in the future. We're not here for any of this. We're here to go into the past to save Sarah Connor from the T-800. Well, actually, we're not here even for that, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, backstory. And the reason you don't begin with 20 minutes of backstory information leading up to your movie is because that's exactly what that section becomes. For 20 long information-driven minutes, we're just waiting for the real actual movie to begin, which is extremely boring. Like here, they should have cut out the entire prologue section and deliver all that vital information the way the first movie does, by trickling it inside the real actual scenes and sequences themselves. If you need to convey the information that Kyle is like a son to John, why not do that in the emotion-based scene where Kyle and Sarah are first getting closer by talking about John, instead of just repeating the same information again?
What was he like?
You know, the first moment I saw John, he shot a Terminator right in front of me. I didn't even know they could be killed.
If you need to convey the information that Kyle has pre-existing feelings for Sarah, why not reveal that down the line to change up their relationship dynamics midway, instead of us just waiting for 2 hours for them to bang because we already know they both either want or need to.
Still breathing?
Good. Then you should be able to mate with Kyle Reese in this timeline.
If you need to convey the information that Kyle and the Terminator are sent into the past, why not just show Kyle and the Terminator appearing in the past? Like, it genuinely baffles me why the filmmakers here thought it'd be a good idea to first talk about doing stuff instead of just doing it. Especially when the whole point of the movie is that things have changed, which makes most of that talk obsolete anyway.
There is value in clearly establishing the upcoming journey's goals and destinations, but to spend 20 minutes on nothing but backstory and verbal unnecessary information that we already know or don't need in the first place, that's when you run into trouble.
Tell her this. Thank you, Sarah, for your courage during the dark years. I can't help you with what you must soon face, except to say the future is not set. There is no fate, but that...
And I am being very harsh here, but imagine this movie opened with as little information as the first one, or even less. Imagine we open with Kyle and the Terminator appearing in the past in a way that first makes us expect another rehash, until then suddenly it all goes sideways.
You won't be needing any clothes.
Point is, don't open your movie with excessive information about what the movie is gonna be. Just like open with your movie. But obviously, this is just my own personal biased opinion and not in any way actually worth anything, like some of you kindly keep reminding me. So I'm sure all this can be great as well. It's not like I decide how movies should be. In fact, before we open our next section, I first need to tell you a backstory of my own that I'm sure you're gonna enjoy. Basically, I used to live in a beautiful world where I was able to watch DuckTales on Disney+, until one day I made the mistake of talking crap about the Disney movie Artemis Fowl, and this way pissed off Disney chairman Bob Iger, who then took revenge by blocking DuckTales in the Krakosia on Disney+. This quickly led to Krakosia descending into chaos because it's a great show, and me being left on the street facing a hopeless reality without DuckTales. Until just then, I was saved by a hero that carried the face of a magic blue bun. And it was Surfshark, the hero VPN that fights the likes of Disney chairman Bob Iger for me. They were nice enough to once again sponsor today's video with a heroic 83% off discount with 4 extra months for free by using code FILM. So if you still haven't gone around to getting a VPN, this is the way to protect your data online and unlock all the content that companies divide behind various geolocks. So check out the link down below, get Surfshark's magic blue bun for yourself, help out the channel in the process. Thank you. But yeah, if you usually think there's no actual objective truth to what I talk about here, you better have sat through and thoroughly enjoyed this whole backstory. The second boredom stillness aspect about Genisys is that once the movie finally starts and we finally start doing stuff, nothing actually gets done because the movie keeps restarting over and over again. After the prologue section, for example, thank God, we at long last do go into the past on our established mission of saving Sarah Connor from the T-800. But as I already touched on, before that mission has time to even fully begin...
Come with me if you want to live!
What the fuck?
Right, so suddenly we find out that this movie's timeline has changed or reset in a way that our main plot-driving mission has become,
Obsolete.
yeah, obsolete, which essentially in a couple ways creates the sense that this movie gets stuck in place. Firstly, because of the fact that our main plot-driving mission is just gone. Not only is the T-800 already dealt with, but Sarah herself has also become this badass warrior with her very own bodyguard Arnold, who clearly doesn't need our saving, which in turn turns our main plot-driving hero Kyle Reese into a purposeless passive shell that the movie literally has to carry and drive around.
Oh, great. That's just great.
And so suddenly, it doesn't feel like we're going anywhere or doing anything, because we don't know where it is we're going or what it is we're doing, because the person serving as our anchor into the story isn't the one going there or doing it. We don't move, we get moved. Things just occur, events just transpire, without a clear larger destination for us to progress towards. The second half of the stuck-in-place problem is that now that we've pretty much completely destroyed the status quo norm that we just spent 20 minutes building up, we have to spend another 10 to 20 minutes to build up and orient ourselves into the new status quo norm, which of course means another big bunch of, you guessed it.
I don't understand. You can't know any of this.
Listen to me, Reese. Everything's changed. The 1984 John sent you to, it no longer exists.
I was programmed to protect Sierra Kana.
Yeah, programmed by who?
Said it happened because the past was altered. How?
Terminator was sent after me when I was a kid.
And again, it genuinely baffles me why the filmmakers insisted on spending 20 minutes on an opening that ultimately amounts to nothing. If you want Sarah and Arnold to be your main plot-driving characters, then why didn't you just open on Sarah and Arnold to make them our viewpoint anchor into this story?
Or, I agree that the movie has to open with Kyle so that we can perceive the timeline changes, but not for 20 minutes when most of that becomes redundant anyway. Just open on a few-minute real sequence of Kyle and John storming the time machine base and then fill in the necessary information later.
Because every time you reset your movie, you move the audience of your movie back to square one.
I don't need saving. There's a new mission.
Here, after Sarah and Arnold have dealt with the T-1000, we then find out that the real mission of this movie is to travel into this new timeline's 2017 to stop Skynet from being born, which here has taken the name Genisys. As in a 2-hour story, we have to sit through 50 minutes of cool filler to get to the real main journey that the story is actually about. And then, once we go on that journey, the movie obviously resets once again, thus repeating again what I just talked about. Our heroes get thrown into this brand new world they have no clue about, which in turn turns them into passive shells who just get carried and driven around. And since a brand new world obviously means a brand new status quo norm, it of course once again means yet another bunch of
Pre-ordered Genisys weeks ago. Downloading the second the counter hit zero.
Genisys is a Trojan horse. It's gotten its way into everything.
I was sent to 2014 to safeguard Skynet.
Skynet was trying to develop a new type of infiltration.
Look, I understand switching things up in terms of achieving the main goal to keep things fresh and increasingly difficult. But to entirely change the main goal and the main point and purpose of your movie multiple times, not a good idea. Because with every single reset and restart, our journey begins again. And if our journey just keeps beginning and beginning, we're not ever actually progressing. We're just stuck at square one, being bored. You know, if you have a movie called Terminator Genisys, maybe the section where our main heroes clearly deliberately work their way toward Genisys should be a bit bigger than just the last 30 minutes. The third boredom thing about this movie is that no matter what journey or time setting we're in, we're always cycling through the exact same scenes and sequences. In the initial 1984 section, for example, take a look at the series of events that transpire. We get thrown into a new status quo world that's unknown to us, and then immediately get arrested by cops. Then, just as an evil Terminator has got us, we get saved by a character who is already familiar with this world, followed by a cool chase scene to get away from that evil Terminator. After which we then get taken into this safe house we don't yet know, where we first have an explosive fight against the Terminator who finds us, and then a calmer preparation sequence before the real mission ahead begins. Okay, so now that you have those in mind, watch how the following 2017 section plays out. We get thrown into a new status quo world that's unknown to us, and then immediately get arrested by cops. Then, just as an evil Terminator has got us, we get saved by a character who is already familiar with this world. After which we then get taken into the safe house we don't yet know, where we first have a calmer preparation sequence before the real mission ahead begins, and then an explosive fight against the Terminator who finds us, followed by a cool chase scene to get away from that evil Terminator. And then, well, I mean, just guess. Like, really, take your pick.
Let's go, get out! Get out!
So essentially, what you're seeing here is this movie replaying the same key events over and over again, which by definition, even if we don't consciously realize it, makes the experience come off as pretty boring, because the experience is the same stuff over and over again. The argument you can make against this, however, is that the movie makes this work by changing how the scenes and sequences play out, and that's a good argument, except for the fact that any and all changes are limited to cosmetics only, which again might be enough to hide the conscious look of boring repetition, but not the subconscious feeling of it. You can say that the arrest scenes always differ in length and destination, but the point is always that we get arrested. You can say that the chase scenes always differ in location and vehicle, but the point is always that we escape from an evil Terminator. You can say that the rescue scenes always differ in... or no, actually, it's always Arnold who saves us.
Real difference comes from things like changing dynamics, like in Terminator 2. In the first chase scene, two opposing Terminators are racing to catch a helpless John Connor. In the second chase scene, John is no longer helpless because he has two badass warriors fighting the evil Terminator during the chase.
The strongest case for difference here comes with the villain. See, whereas in the past the movie treats the T-1000 as just a pure evil machine, it then tries to switch this up completely in the present by making John Connor the new Terminator, essentially trying to mix up the dynamics, because now the villain isn't just an evil killing machine that we can just shoot and blow up, but instead a partially human son of our heroes that gives an emotionally understandable face to Skynet and its plan.
I'm offering us a future together. Family. You can't run from me, I'll always find you.
John, fight this. It doesn't have to go down this way.
All you people know how to do. Kill what you don't understand.
That is, until we then remember that the movie literally began with the information that Skynet's plan is, and still remains, to nuke and kill all of humanity just because humanity exists. And so mostly the only difference we have compared to the T-1000 is that here we're mainly just confused as to why John doesn't just kill Kyle and Sarah to make Skynet succeed, or why we should find him in any way intimidating.
Give me the detonator!
Because again, all the differences are cosmetic only, and it genuinely does not matter that the Terminator is John, because we still treat him like any other random emotionally void evil killing machine.
I wouldn't remember.
The place you spent so much time with Grandma.
So altogether, what we have here is a movie that preaches about everything having changed, in which nothing ever really changes. And when you sum that up with an opening that never comes, as well as openings that come again and again, you have yourself what quite possibly is the most boring action blockbuster ever made. You have yourself your very own Terminator Genisys.